Hi, I'm Norlyn Young, Staff Archivist here at Kappa Theta headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I invite you to join me on a virtual tour of a special exhibit, Bettie Locke and Her Family, 4 Generations of Thetas. Come follow me as we discover these items. Before we get started, I want to give a special thank you to the family of Carol Cones Bradfield, who donated these materials to the fraternity so that we can share the experiences and lives of these 5 amazing leading women. The exhibit takes a look at the lives of Bettie Locke Hamilton, her daughters Edna and Eulalia, her granddaughter Genevieve, and her great-granddaughter Carol. We'll take a look and see bits and pieces about how they were as college-educated women living their lives from the 1850s to the 1970s. Let's start with Bettie. Bettie was born in 1850 and followed her father as he was a professor and administrator at several small colleges around the Midwest. They returned back to Greencastle when he became a professor in the 1860s. Bettie became one of the first 5 women to enter Indiana Asbury, as DePauw was known at that time, in 1867. Among the items that we received in the collection are several essays that Bettie wrote as a student. In particular, one of my favorites is a paper titled The Fate of the Girondists. If you haven't brushed up on your French political history, that was a party during the French Revolution. Unfortunately, they did all lose their heads. We know that she wrote it because among the items includes a program from the junior recitations in December 1869. One of the things I also would like to say about this is that Bettie had a strong sense of her place in history, and so she instilled that in her daughters, granddaughter, and great-granddaughter to save these wonderful materials. We even have notes on the back saying, "Please save." I also want to talk about other experiences that she had as a student at DePauw. Among the materials that were donated includes an autograph album that she had her fellow students sign, including other founders and members of Kappa Alpha Theta in those early days. The treasure in the collection is, of course, the famous cake basket. If you remember the story, the Phi Gamma Deltas presented this basket to Bettie in 1870. Bettie's brother was a member of the Phi Gamma Deltas, and she would make treats for their group. And she had an opportunity they asked her in a sense to become an honorary member of the organization. She said, "No, I want to be a full member." They said, "Nah, we don't allow women." And so she got the impetus to begin Kappa Alpha Theta fraternity. In May of 1870, they presented her with this lovely, lovely cake basket. After graduation, Bettie taught at the Illinois Institute for the Deaf. In 1876, she married Edward A. Hamilton, a shopkeeper. They had a store first in Illinois and then moved to Independence, Kansas, where he operated a specialty grocery store. During their time in Independence, Kansas, Bettie was very active in community organizations, such as the Ladies' Library Society, the Women's Missionary Society, and her church. We have artifacts from that time of their lives in the way of invitations and announcements at parties that they hosted at their home. Bettie also maintained her contact with Kappa Alpha Theta, and when they moved back in the 1890s to Greencastle, Indiana, so that the 2 daughters could attend DePauw University, Bettie got involved with the Greencastle alumni chapter and was even a delegate to the 1893 Grand Convention held that year in Chicago, Illinois. We are thrilled that we've seen this connection to Kappa Alpha Theta through the years, and Bettie held it very dear. Some of the things that she collected along the way included a 1924 convention button from her attendance there, and she attended many other conventions as well. In 1920, for the 50th anniversary of Kappa Alpha Theta, the fraternity presented the 2 surviving founders, Bettie Locke Hamilton and Hannah Fitz Shaw, with a special pin based on the fraternity's coat of arms, each of them specially engraved with the word founder. Only 2 of these were made, and both Bettie and Hannah wore those proudly. We can now say that we actually have both of those pins now in the collections here at headquarters. Among the items that we received in this collection are textiles, artifacts that reflected the lives of women during this time period. We have baby dresses, shawls worn by Bettie Locke, clothing worn by Bettie Locke and her daughters. Behind me here, I have the dress from approximately 1876 and part of Betty's wedding trousseau. This dress has a special connection to her great-granddaughter that we'll talk about later. Also in this collection are other pieces from their lives. Fans, shoes, hair combs that they used, crocheting and embroidery that were done by Betty and her daughters, baby blankets, lace collars and cuffs that they would use to wear. It is just a wonderful representation of what women at that time period wore and used in their lives. I particularly like the little pocketbooks and the fan that are here in the exhibit. Among the textiles, there's a little item that I think just so much reflects the love that Betty had for her daughter, and even getting her other daughter's assistance to make it. There's this little coin purse that was made by Betty and Eulalia for Edna when she traveled up to Chicago to attend nursing school. It really shows the love and care that they had for their sister and daughter, and the little embroidered blue flowers is what I'm particularly fond of. We're going to take a look now at Betty's two daughters, Edna and Eulalia Hamilton. Let's take a look first at Edna Hamilton. Edna was born in 1878 and attended DePauw University, initiated into Alpha Chapter in 1895. After graduation at DePauw, she went up to Chicago to attend nursing school. In her later graduation, she then became a superintendent of a local nursing school in the Chicago area. She got very interested in public health and moved down to Indianapolis in the 1920s to take on the role as superintendent of the Indianapolis Visiting Nurse Association. Edna went on to become the director of nursing for the Michigan Children's Fund, touring the entire state of Michigan to help recommend improvements in public health and to offer her assistance to small communities throughout the state. One of the other things about Edna was the fact that she actually helped financially support Bettie Locke in her later years, and also even assisted her niece, Genevieve Hartley Cones, to attend DePauw. Let's now meet Eulalia Hamilton. Eulalia was born in 1882. She, like her sister, followed in her footsteps and attended DePauw University and was initiated in the Alpha Chapter in 1901. Eulalia enjoyed her life and became a teacher, where she taught in local Indiana schools for 5 years before she was married. At that time, women who were teachers had to quit their positions if they got married. Her husband was a principal in local schools, and she also participated in the community like her mother and belonged to many women's organizations, including the Indiana State Federation of Women's Clubs. She also did charitable work and supported things that her husband did in his school. Eulalia was really someone who traveled quite extensively, and we have many mementos of her trips, including visiting the Buffalo Exposition in 1901, as well as her life and activities that are captured in her scrapbooks. One of the things we really enjoy about Eulalia is her correspondence, both letters and postcards. One of the earliest letters we have written by her is in 1891, when she was just about 8 years old. We enjoy looking at these. She talks a letter to her father, and she goes, "Grandpa gave me 1 cent. Grandpa is a very good man." She also had quite a number of postcards, including pansy postcards. Eulalia Hamilton Hartley had 2 children, a son Myron and a daughter Genevieve. Genevieve was born in 1918 and attended DePauw University in 1937. Genevieve had actually attended Indiana State University for her first 3 years because this was the height of the Depression. Her aunt helped pay tuition, and she transferred to DePauw University to finish out her last year. She was initiated in 1938 in the Alpha Chapter. Among the special items that we have for Genevieve is a wonderful letter written to her by her big sis on her pledge day. And let me read a couple things from that letter. Her big sis, Anna Wilkson, says, "And Genevieve, remember that you can in turn give the sorority as much as it gives you. Striving on your part will be reflected in the added glory of Theta as a whole. I am certain that you can do much for us." Among the other items in her scrapbooks is including her pledge ribbon that was given to her then in 1937. Genevieve also had materials in her collection, including her 1937 Indiana driver's license, which includes directions on how to do hand signals. Genevieve had one child, a daughter, Carol Combs. Carol was born in 1949 and attended DePauw University in 1967, exactly 100 years after her great-grandmother had been among the first 5 women to attend DePauw in 1867. Carol felt, as well as the rest of the family, very strongly about her family history. She actually served as the chapter president in 1970-71 and attended the Grand Convention, our centennial celebration, in 1970, where she wore her great-grandmother's dress. Among the items that we have for Carol in the collection are lots of mementos of her time as a college student. In those items includes a letter that was written by her big sis, Mary Lou, on the date of her initiation. Mary Lou writes, "It is just the beginning of a lifelong association that can be as meaningful as you want to make it. It is the beginning of so many things. You now have 60 new sisters. It won't always be easy or fun. It means moving into a family where each member must assume her own responsibility. But with this responsibility comes satisfaction, pride, and love. It means sharing, unselfishness, and a great deal of give and take. But it all adds up to 3 beautiful years of personal growth, joy, and a future." It's nice to know that these sentiments written back in 1967 are the same that we feel for our Theta sisters today. Carol had always been interested in politics, and she went on to serve in several positions in Washington, D.C. I will tell you that myself, working with these materials, as well as seeing the faces of visitors here at headquarters to see the exhibit, draws up very special emotions about our place and role in Betty's development of Kappa Alpha Theta fraternity. One of the traditions that we had in the past was when both Betty and particularly Hannah was alive, were to write letters of thank you on Founders Day. And so we too have been encouraging those that have visited us to write a note to Dear Betty and thank her for what she has done for us. Let me read you a few of the ones that we've had here. "Dearest Betty, I've thought about what it would be like to meet you. Now, due to the love and care that you and your family took to protect your memories, I see your life in my own eyes. The struggles, the victories, the love, the sadness, all to develop a family I am proud to call my sisters." Another person wrote, "As we visit headquarters today and with fascination and wonder reflect on your life and legacy, in addition to the strong women of your family, we are grateful for your strong example of the power of love, loyalty, intellect, and courage. Always in your honor, loyally." Thank you for coming along on this special video tour of the Bettie Locke exhibit. I will tell you that these materials are part of the Theta archives, and you are welcome, if you are ever in the Indianapolis area, to come visit headquarters and see the archives, and we can share additional stories. The materials will be used for years to come, particularly as we come to celebrate our sesquicentennial in 2020. Like you, I am grateful to all that our first leading woman, Bettie Locke Hamilton, did for this fraternity, and capturing it in her history and her family's history just really reinforces her important impact on us as leading women.